Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's Az.
My name's Luke.
And my name's Neil.
Welcome everyone, and on today's show we have a special welcome to Neil as well, who's filling in for David, who's taken a couple of days off. So regular viewers of our press conference roundup and our breakfast club would already know Neil, in particular for making the most boring transfer ever in one of our videos, Camera to Quainer. Yes. So Neil, what have we got coming up on the show? More interesting than that?
I can actually rival that transfer later on. We'll discuss that. Yeah, but coming up, we've got community questions. So we're looking at a team with very good short-term fixtures. We've got a premium price player who's attracting a lot of attention, and a tempting Red Devil. And we're going to look at Mendy replacements, other defensive issues, and look back as far as game week 12, which includes rough with a smooth. And then finally, game week 13. So we're going to reveal our differentials, clean sheet tips, transfer plans, and captaincy decisions.
Okay, well that is more interesting. I'm going to just lay that out there. So, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at our game weeks first, our game weeks 12. So it's so far back, we'll try and be brief, but there's a special reason why we might not be, because for the first time, I believe this season, I've actually got the most points, which is quite surprising. So it certainly surprised me. And there's my team. I got 71, so 75 minus 4. I took a hit. It's my best game week rank of the season, which didn't feel like it, but apparently it was best I've had. So I moved up about 60,000 places to around 60,000. And Arnautovic and Gudmundsson came in for Mitrovic and Maddison for a hit. So a bit of housekeeping there. Pretty happy with them, even though they didn't deliver. Although Gudmundsson's injured, so we may have to move him on. That only cost me 2 points, though, because they netted a grand total of 5, and my alternative would have got me 3 points. So Robertson, Hart, and Alonso did well for me. 30 points between them. They did very well, especially Joe Hart. Salah captain, and points from Fraser and Aguero and Ings. So really kind of a nice spread of points there. So pretty happy with that. Next up, well, just before we get to Luke, I just want to say David, he actually got 70, he did really well. He brought Shaqiri in, as he did live on the last Breakfast Club, so 70 points, and so did really well there. So Luke, you're up next. You got Shaqiri in as well, but you went a step further. Let's tell us about your team.
Yeah, so Captain Shaqiri, which thankfully worked out. I was pretty nervous about him even starting the game, so obviously when I seen him in the lineup, I was chuffed. And then watching it, I think Salah scored in the first 20 minutes, and I know everyone's got him as captain, so I'm sitting here thinking, here we go again, this is Cardiff at home all over. But luckily for me, Shaqiri ended up matching him same score, so that was good. Liverpool sort of went to type this season with not really hammering teams when they probably should, so that was good. I ended up having to take a hit because I had to get rid of, well, I didn't have to, but I felt like I had to get rid of Mitrovic, boring transfer to Kamara, just to save the value. So apart from that, the only other real shining lights, I'd say David Luiz finally outscoring Alonso. I only think it's only by 1 point, but I'll take it because he's been getting hammered for most of the season in that area. Robertson 12, I think a lot of people have got that, but other than that, really, it's pretty standard across the board, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think.
Happy.
Yeah, no, I mean, you 67 points, but a hit's a 63. I mean, that's a pretty good game week, and you've got that nice spread of points, and you've got the kudos of the Maverick captaincy move.
And that's all that counts.
And that is all that counts. Then, Neil, you got 62 points. Speaking of Maverick moves, what was your move then?
Yeah, this is very template. It was Maddison out and Mark Albrighton in.
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'll explain this. There was method behind the insanity that it was. So I came into this game week with 2 free transfers, and it was all set up. I didn't even know what I was going to do with those transfers. I had the team you see now with Maddison instead of Albrighton. I think the news broke on Thursday or Friday that he was injured. I looked at the options. I've still got my wild card up my sleeve, so it was going to be a short-term punt. Now, I did look at Shaqiri. That's who I wanted. But I would have taken 2 transfers to get him in, and I didn't really want to lose anybody else or downgrade anyone else. Yedlin could have possibly gone for like another bit of bench fodder, but what I decided to do with game week 13 in mind was downgrade Madison to Albrighton, so I had coverage in that Leicester Burnley game. I thought there'd be goals in that, there wasn't. Which means I've got money now to upgrade Quainer to Jimenez for Gameweek 13. So I'm going to do that this week. Okay. I'm going to watch the price rises because I think he's gone up one already. And I've just got enough now to do it, so I might pull the trigger tonight. I know he's not playing for Mexico in midweek, so I think I'll probably do that tonight, just in case there's a mad rush on him. But yeah, that was the sort of thinking behind Albrighton. It was a 2-week move. He's going to go in my wild card. He's going to be on the bench for the next few weeks. I just wanted cover for that Burnley game because I thought there'd be goals. Okay. He nearly got an assist, but yeah,
not with Joe Hart in between the sticks.
Well,
yeah, I think Gazal, or whatever his name is, he headed Albrighton crossed against the bar, something like that. So it nearly paid off. He got taken off after 59 minutes as well. He didn't even get a clean sheet point. So it looks disastrous, but there was some rationale behind that. It's really in order to get Jimenez this week.
I must admit, I mean, I was ready to laugh a lot. In fact, I did laugh a little at Albrighton coming in, because it's like that thing on Twitter when you exchange something for something that's exactly the same. People put up that picture of Spider-Man looking at the same Spider-Man. So it's like Maddison, Albrighton, a player that almost scored but didn't. And but there is, actually, I completely agree. It's a really good upgrade to allow Quainer in for to get Jimenez in for Quainer as well. And I completely forgot you've still got your wild card to play, so there's no way I'm going to have a pop at that. So yeah, not bad. So Az, you're up next. You've got exactly the same points as Neil there, 62.
Yep. Bottom of the pile again.
Yeah, well, joint bottom of the pile.
Doesn't make me feel any better. You said all the normal players. I mean, I had success as my big differential. There's only one way that was going to go when you've got a 4.5 striker, which you're hoping gets some returns. I bought in Brooks this week. He's a player I've wanted for quite a while. I'm doing what I do this season. I'm bringing a player after all their point hauls and, kind of looking at their fixtures. It's not looking great for him. But I made the decision that I wanted to get rid of Obiang because I want to basically strengthen my bench a bit going into Christmas. So Maddison being injured gave me a kind of opportunity to get a player. I was kind of between Patterson and Brooks and those kind of 5 million players. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. He's a player that I'm probably going to have to call on at some point over the next few weeks, and it's better to have him than Obiang or Wan-Bissaka or somebody who could crop up with a goal. So yeah, I mean, it's just I got a first green arrow in 5 weeks. I can't complain too much, but just all a bit dull. Just all the same players scoring as everyone else. So it's just a bit meh.
Yeah, I'm finding that as well. But then I play by the template often, so
we can't all play like Mark.
No, we can't all play like Mark. So that's a lovely segue because let's do a Maverick Mark update. Because the last time we spoke about him, we noticed that on Breakfast Club he'd taken a 8-point hit, and we had no idea what he'd done, and then we found out shortly afterwards. So it's just an update here because we know people like to keep updating Marks. But Mark, by the way, has shot up the rankings from somewhere like 1 million or something to the edge of the top 10,000. I think it's about 20,000 now. So whatever he's doing, it's working. So this is what he did. Took an 8-point hit. So he scored 47 by the end of that. With Dubravka, Bennett, and Guendouzi leaving his team to be replaced by Fabianski, Balbuena and Murphy from Cardiff coming in. So many people raised their eyebrows about that, but we raised our eyebrows last time he did some hits and a Maverick moves, and he came back with...
I think that was for like Sterling and Maddison.
Yes.
An exciting
this will be a master plan. Something will happen the coming week. All of this will be related to another player coming in that he will captain and will get a massive haul and he'll be into the top 10,000. So that's just the way it is. So there's a rough there for him, and then there'll be a smooth next week. Az, have you got a couple of rough with the smooths left over from game week 12?
Yeah, as you said, it's been a long time, and actually looking through them, I think everyone kind of had a fairly decent week. There wasn't too many things that went wrong for people. I managed to pick one out, which I'll come to in a minute. But in terms of smooth, I mean, the best kind of bench, I thought with Maddison out, there's bound to be, with some decent bench players coming in. I was looking for some Stevens with a red card, but couldn't see any of those. A lot of people had Stevens, but firmly rooted to their bench, which was good. But Matches Tayet got Mkhitaryan off his bench for Madison,
Ooh.
which I thought was impressive because who has Mkhitaryan at this stage? Well, he does, and he
Wow.
got 8 points, I think, in the goal. So
well earned. Anyone who's got Mkhitaryan deserves that.
Yeah, I was impressed with that. Now I've got one a bit of a debate for you
okay.
here. Well, I didn't write down the name. Apologies to whoever it was, but they triple captained Salah.
Okay.
They got 24 points from that, and they classed that as a smooth, and said they were very happy.
Oh.
Would you be happy with 24 points from a triple captain?
No.
I think I can talk here. I've triple captained Balassi before for when he got a yellow card, so
Wow.
I would be happy with that. I don't know about you lot though.
I mean, there's Maverick, Luke, and then there's
See, that's the downside of these Arnautovic captain, Shaqiri captain. They don't always work.
Well, I triple captain Kane last year when he got 3 points. That hurt.
There you go. Yeah, at least Kane's got a potential, right? Balassi, but I don't know what I was thinking.
Neil, what do you think? Do you think that's you'd be happy with that? 24 points from a triple captain?
So time will tell, won't it? What happens later in the season, and we all laugh at it now and say, "Oh, you should have saved that for a double game week." But sort of transpired last season that there wasn't really one worth spending it on, and it did look a fantastic fixture. But as Luke said early on, Liverpool just aren't putting teams to the sword anymore. You couldn't get a better home fixture than that, and that's sort of shaping what I'm thinking about Liverpool assets over Christmas. I mean, when a fixture stiffen up a bit, not only am I sort of less inclined to put the big chips on them like triple captain, I might even go without Liverpool assets over Christmas.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you think, Joe?
Well, no, I mean, I the only point I'd be happy with that, I think, would be if it was the second match in a double game week, and I'd got nothing from that player, and if I ended up with, say, I got 1 point from them in the first game, and then they got 7 in the next one, I would probably have a sigh of relief there that at least they got something, but I'd be disappointed. And I think for me it just makes sense to captain a player over 2 games, and it's best to find them if they've got 2 easy games, because we've seen before with the likes of Sanchez and Aguero, that during those double game weeks, if you triple captain them, it's a game changer completely.
Definitely, and I think you have to describe it as satisfactory more than anything else, because if you put at the end of the day, it's 1 game week, right? And the most common score to return for a player is probably going to be 2. That's the most probable result for just about any player at any given time. So if you get some points, you've got to look at it as satisfactory. But yeah, like you say, there is potential, and I think we have had it before where Sanchez hit nearly 70 points or something 1 week. So you got to look at that and think what could be.
Yeah, it's all about floors and ceilings, and there's just a bigger ceiling over 2 games.
I think the triple captain chip itself, I think, is overrated quite a lot. I mean, if you got a score of 15, you'd be really happy. And there's people like saying to this guy, "Oh, you got 8, that's rubbish." But that's only 7 points different if you captain the same player, from 8 to 15. So is it that big a deal? I don't know. I don't really like the triple captainship. I think it's a bit. I remember when I burnt it last season, like in January, and everyone had it, and I was so worried about it all season. And then no triple captains I saw got any points for the rest of the season.
It's largely it's a very luck-based chip, in my opinion. Very luck-based. But there we go.
Okay, well let's move on to some community questions.
Hang on, I've got one. I've got one.
Oh,
rough.
you've got one more. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Sorry, just one rough. Jello Fail, who we've definitely mentioned before.
Oh yes.
I just wanted this is an interesting one. So last week, this is a setup to this. So last week he sold as part of a 12-point hit Lacazette, Shaqiri, Alexander-Arnold, and Hudson-Odoi. Right.
What?
Now over the 2 weeks they got 30 points. The players he bought in for a -12, Mane blanked both times, Barkley blanked both times, Mendy blanked both times, and Kamara, who also blanked both times, getting a total of 13, which not he estimates, it cost him 35 points, that 12-point hit. So,
well, he's taken a bold move, and it's just completely gone wrong.
Yeah,
but moving Shaqiri home to Fulham.
Well, he removed Shaqiri for Mane because he was worried about the minutes, or I can
don't
see
know.
I can
I
see
can
the
see.
logic.
I can see. I think
That's
that
grass is greener. He's going for the grass is greener thing there.
Well, he did it before, the whole
Oh
not
yeah. Well,
thing.
probably the real question is why Shaqiri and his team before
Well,
that.
that is a very good question.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think the lesson there is like a 12-point hit is very, very rarely going to work out, even long term, because it's just too big a hit there. You've really got to rely on lots of good things happening, and sometimes it can work. But yeah, I think the lesson there is perhaps some of those moves could have been done over a period of weeks, and perhaps not with so many hits there. But nevertheless, I'm sure he is a regular questioner on the Scoutcast. He does he plays the game for fun, so that's a good thing. Well, let's move on to some of the more other community questions. So we've got some. There's two players that have been mentioned the most really in our questions. So Az, who is the first? And what have the community got to say about them?
So the first question we have is about Anthony Martial,
Ooh.
who has scored 6 goals in his last 5 matches. He's looked exceptional value for less than 8 million. We've had some, loads of questions about it. So Verbino says Martial, simply, can he sustain it? Can he sustain his form? Elmwood, FPL, and FPL Brent say Martial, is he a real option or is he just a flash in the pan? And we also have questions about a certain Tottenham striker.
Okay, well let's go for Martial first then, I reckon, rather than the certain Tottenham
Spoilers.
striker. I wonder who that is, Llorente, presumably, but let's yes, fire away Az, question us.
Well, shall I say my piece first? I mean, we had a really good article on the site from the Fantasy Freak talking about how Martial is just massively overperforming on his stats. So you look at his expected goals, you look at his shots, you look at all the things that you look for in a kind of attacking asset, and he's just putting up like unsustainable numbers. I think it's like 45% conversion rate or something like that. So it kind of indicates that his form is bound to drop off at some point. However, I'm thinking that like he's kind of had this form and this momentum with fixtures that haven't been altogether that great. And actually, it's now, I'm looking at United's fixtures with Palace at home, Southampton away, Arsenal, and then I think they've got Fulham. Those 4 games are prime for him to carry on returning. And actually, you're not really gambling that much with him still at 7.6. It's not like he's a 9-10 million pound player. I think he's a really, really good option. And that's despite the fact that I think United are absolute pants this season. So I'm looking at getting him in this week as part of a hit. He'll be my Obiang upgrade. So I can't really see that going. I mean, how wrong can that go? Quote me on that next week when Obiang scores. But yeah, I think he's. The worry with Martial's always been his place in the team. He's had a bit of a history with Mourinho, especially over the summer. Can he keep his place? But they need him at the moment. I mean, he's one of their only players who's looking like he actually cares and is trying and he's playing ridiculously well, really. So I think he's a good option. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, I wanted Martial last week, but obviously the fixture against City basically made me go for Shaqiri for a 1 week punt because obviously they had a far better fixture. That place was always I had Martial in mind for that spot. Obviously away to City, you don't really expect him to score. Obviously he did, so I could have possibly saved myself a transfer there. But at the end of the day, Martial, I think he's already really been covered pretty well by you there, as is just the fact that he's a goal scorer and he's probably, with Lukaku out of the team, I'd say he's, along with Pogba, are probably the only 2 players you'd look for in that whole team that could probably even score goals, really. I mean, Sanchez obviously could, but he's not really done it for Man United. But aside from that, I don't really see too many goals in that team. And they're relying on him to score them. So if they are going to win some games over this easy fixtures, which Man United, you would expect them to. I know they haven't been great, but you would expect them to score 1 or 2 goals in these games. And Martial's bound to be involved at the moment, I think. And there's a chance he keeps penalties because Pogba missed his last one. Martial scored it. So I guess it will come down to Pogba's ego there, whether he'll let him take them. But yeah, I mean, I really like him. I know he's outperforming his stats, but for me, he's really sort of he's more of a 9 million, 10 million player, more in the Sané mould if he actually did guarantee his starting place. And that's how he came to the league at that price in FPL. And he was our top goal scorer that season when he came. So he's definitely got it in him. You do worry longer term that one bad incident, one bad game. But at the moment, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer. I think he's a great option, especially with so many other midfielders around his price that aren't really doing it at the moment.
Yeah.
Lots of injury worries as well in that bracket. So yeah, why not? Although he himself is an injury worry, there's a chance he may not play. But I think he got pictured in training today.
Yeah, he was training. He looked pretty. I think he was even smiling. I don't think I've ever seen him smile before. But he looked quite happy today.
Now I'm scared. I don't want to see
Probably
that.
saw Fellaini's haircut and put a bit of smile on his face. I think United look to me this season like just a team of individuals. They're just relying on individual brilliance to get them through. There doesn't seem to be any chemistry between any of the players at all. So I think they just give the ball to Martial and just hope he kind of conjures something up, and he is doing it. So why not go for him? Neil?
Yeah, well covered there. I think it's kind of come full circle in that. Remember when the price list was released and Martial was in demand in pre-season because everyone thought he was going to play up front with Sanchez, and then he sort of just, again, as Luke said, that you only one incident away from being dropped with Mourinho. Yes, his stats suggest he is overperforming, but we thought that in the past this season about people like Aubameyang and Lacazette. We tend not to take heed to things like goal conversion rate. No one ever seems to mention that. Whereas the best players tend to have quite high goal conversion rates. They don't need as many chances. And he's definitely, Man United's talisman at the moment. He won't carry on scoring at the rate he is now. But as I said, the fixtures are falling into place. I mean, I haven't had a Man United player on my team all season. And I don't think I've had one going back to early stages of last season with Phil Jones. But I'm looking at either Martial or Pogba over Christmas. Probably not yet. I haven't really got space for him yet. Like I said, he's at a good price, but I can't really squeeze him in at the moment. But yeah, Pogba's numbers are slightly better. Creating a bit more. He's last 5 game weeks, seen a number of big chances. Pogba's got 1 fewer shot on target, 2 fewer shots in the box, but has played 1 game fewer as well. And yeah, he's Pogba's probably more nailed, you'd say. He played all 4 games over last Christmas, played every minute.
Well, he's fallen out with Mourinho as well.
Yeah, but
who hasn't?
He seems to play regardless, Pogba, whereas I think other people are more sort of eminently droppable. And like I say, if you're looking for someone who's nailed over Christmas, then Pogba's probably a man. But I mean, you can't argue with what he's doing recently. Martial, sort of 6 goals in 5 games, and those fixtures. Not so much in the short term. I mean, Crystal Palace at home's an all right fixture, but he's up against Wan-Bissaka, who's played quite well in recent weeks from a defensive perspective. But sort of from game weeks 18 to 21, the 4 games over Christmas, I mean, there aren't better fixtures than that on the league. So I'm definitely looking at a medium term, if not the short term.
I think they're great fixtures short term. Crystal Palace at home, Southampton away, and then Arsenal at home, who were quite leaky, and then Fulham. I mean,
You don't know what Fulham's going to be like in 4 weeks' time. They might tightened up a bit, but
top of the league.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Joe? Because you've been talking about Sigurdsson for a while, haven't you? Like wanting to get him in, and he's kind of the same price as Martial.
Yeah, well, I mean, before I talk about Sigurdsson, something was talking on social media with the who got the assist chaps, and they were saying what's the difference between overperforming and in form? And Martial is a good example of that. And so I don't own him. Therefore, basically, he's overperforming because I don't own him. But if I did own him, he would be bang on form. So I think that's the way it is, really. You start getting this divide. People who own him just think he's in form. If you don't, he's overperforming. And I'm kind of a little bit that way, glass half empty at that goal conversion rate. So that's 6 goals in 13 attempts. Historically, that's rarely sustainable for anyone. That level.
Except Yaya Toure.
Except Yaya Toure, who was incredible. He was something like 6 shots, 6 goals in 2 weeks, or something like that. And I believe,
wasn't Ramsey a bit similar as well?
And Aaron Ramsey had that as well. Yeah. But it's rare. It's very rare. And Martial, when he came to the Premier League, if you remember, I think we had in that Scoutcast that week. I remember Granville got him in. Being a Manchester United fan, Martial coming in, lots of talk about him. He just said, right, I'm having a bit of that. And he came in, I think it was a Southampton game, he scored a brace or a hat-trick, something. And he had a terrific start. And it's kind of, I don't know, I'm having flashbacks to that time. And then it just dropped off a cliff. And so I think that could possibly happen. Obviously, if it doesn't, he's going to go up to about 8 million. And if he's playing week in, week out, scoring every game, you've got to get him in because that's an absolute no-brainer.
That's what he's doing.
But he's doing that at the moment over a short space of games. But if that goes on, yeah, so it is tempting. But yeah, you mentioned Sigurdsson. One of the reasons I think I prefer Sigurdsson at the moment, I just think that he's got a broader range of points. He is definitely nailed on within a team. Could be injured. He's carrying an injury rather over the international break. So obviously, I'm tempering this with I might not better get him in at all because he might be injured. But he's the one I like. So he's had 15 goal attempts over. So this range of matches, Martial, is game weeks 8 to 12. This is the Martial era. So I was comparing Sigurdsson with Martial then. So Martial's had 13 goal attempts and Sigurdsson 15. So he's doing really well for those goal attempts as well. But obviously only 2 goals there. But that's a kind of familiar. I'm familiar with those underlying stats in terms of the goals you're going to get from it as well. And he created 11 chances and he got an assist from it. And obviously I think he could have got a few more as well. So I don't know. Sigurdsson's the one if I was going to spend that much on a player. But I don't think at the moment you, possibly with Richarlison, a bit cheaper, I think you can get good returns from Richarlison. At a cheaper price really. So for me at the moment, the way my team is and my general attitude to goal conversion, he's not for me at the moment, but I do not rule him out, and maybe at some point, my attitude to him being overperforming will just turn into inform.
I think one thing with Martial is because you've got so many United fans around. If he scores another goal, I reckon his price is going to shoot up. He'll be 8 million before you know it if he gets another goal or two.
Yeah.
So how long do you leave it before you make the move on him? Just something to consider.
And without that international injury, he probably would have gone up another 0.1 or maybe another 0.2. So for me, being a Man United fan, it's a bit of nostalgia there. Really, it's just nice to have one in my team for once in about the last 5 years or something. So it just feels good.
I kind of almost want to see how he does when Lukaku is fit and working in working order. To see if Martial still starts, to see what happens with that as well. I don't know, but you could end up waiting 5 or 10 weeks for that, and Martial scoring 10 goals over that time. So, there'll be a judgment call to make. I'm not quite ready for that judgment call. So, as we've got another attacking player that the community's been asking about. Who's that?
Well, it's Fernando Llorente of Spurs. Oh wait, no, sorry, no, Kane of Spurs. 12.4 million. It's still 12.4 million. A lot of money. Great fixtures from game week 15, right up until the new year. But he's just got 1 goal and an assist in his last 5 Premier League games. Of course, he scored for England in the game on Sunday. So Wolf Simo says Harry Kane, great fixtures, but that price tag, is he a good captaincy option? And is he a player I should be getting in? Hammers Mace says, is it worth swapping Aguero for Kane over Christmas? Which I think is a really nice question. So let's go to you, Neil. What do you reckon on Kane?
Yeah, this is plaguing me too, because as I said before, I got my wild card, and this looked like an easy transfer to make in a couple of weeks' time. Aguero over to Kane. It's not looking so easy now. I think I looked at this run of fixtures, so game week 10 to 14, when the Spurs had City, Wolves, Chelsea, and Arsenal coming up. I thought that'll be a good audition. See if Eriksen and Ali are being integrated back in the team. How Kane plays with those two. We're running out of game weeks now. They've only got the 2 matches before game week 15. Eriksen and Ali are still not really any further to just nailing down a midfield place. I think Ali just played his first 90 minutes, game week 12. And Aguero keeps delivering. Kane flatters to deceive. I think it's his home form more than anything else. I think I haven't had that many fixtures at home, but away from home, he scored 5 and 8, which is fine. Sort of extrapolate over the course of the season, that'll be 11, 12 goals away from home. That'll be fine.
One goal at home this season for Kane.
Exactly, yeah. That's the problem. They have played Liverpool and City, but they've also played Cardiff and Fulham. So it's been a mixed bag. Everyone points to the Lucas Moura factor, whether he's playing deep because of him. But you saw with England on Saturday, he was doing that, with England as well. As you say, for most people, getting Kane in means sacrificing Aguero. You can't really have both and have a balanced squad elsewhere. And City's fixture list isn't as good as Spurs, but the sort of teams who they're up against, so, West Ham, Watford, Palace, they're the sort of fixtures that might cause Liverpool, Chelsea a few problems. You could imagine them scraping 1 or 2-0 wins, but they're the type of teams that City will just go and batter them. I mean, and you could imagine Aguero matching Kane for points, even without that reliance for starts over this Christmas period. So I'm still not sure myself, and I might even delay my wild card, give him an extended audition in Gameweek 15, and then make a decision after that, after seeing what he's going to be like against Southampton, and then take it from there.
Because that Southampton game is the game you want him for, purely.
Yeah, you can steal a march on people if you get him in for that, but it could backfire spectacularly, and he could just continue the way he's been. I think everyone thinks back to that back-to-back hat-tricks at last Christmas, and he might sort of replicate that form, but there's nothing suggesting that at the moment.
I mean, if you take 15 and 16, I mean, Aguero's got Watford away and then Chelsea away, and Kane's got Southampton at home, Leicester away. So if you're looking purely on who's going to outscore who, the fixtures tell you it's going to be Kane. But I'm with you. It seems like a really risky move.
Yeah,
because it's kind of all or nothing, isn't it? Like if you go for Kane and he does well, then okay, you've stolen a march on everyone and you look great, and then everyone's study rushing to get him in. But if you do it, you've suddenly, if you do it and then Kane doesn't deliver, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
He's a full million more as well as Aguero. You've got to sort of raise that cash from somewhere, so it's not like it's a downgrade. I
mean, I guess the advantage is though that if it does backfire, you can make the switch back to Aguero quite easy. I mean, Aguero with his limited minutes, I do wonder what's going to happen to him over Christmas. And you've got to think Kane is going to play pretty much every minute that he's available for. I'm going to leave some cash in the bank to think about that move, and I'm going to look to get Sterling in as well to kind of he's Sterling is one of the core players that I want in my team, whether it be this week or the week after. Sterling is definitely coming into my team somehow, so that gives me a bit like Mark. It gives me a kind of bit more kind of optimism with dropping Aguero, because at least I've got Sterling to kind of cover the City attack. What do you reckon, Luke? You going for Kane?
I probably am. Yeah, I've got the money's already there for me to do that move. Obviously things can happen in the meantime that may change that, but not having Salah has already left that door open to me for quite a while now. Spurs, obviously, I mean, you could argue all of their games are away, really. So I think that is probably a factor. Then their team's been grinding out results quite impressively without blowing teams away. And I think it's already been mentioned that they've got a grueling fixture list over Christmas with all sorts of important games in the Champions League. But you still just think Kane, being Kane, is going to play the vast majority of those games, if not all of them, even if he maybe gets rested a little bit. And I think the main factor there is because, although I think Llorente is a good player, I don't think the manager quite has the same confidence in him. And at the end of the day, we're looking at Aguero or Kane here. Most of us are. I mean, if you can get both of them, great. But compared to Aguero, I mean, Aguero's got Jesus, who's just scored a hat-trick in the Champions League. I know it wasn't the most impressive hat-trick, but he's bound to get game time over Aguero over this period. He's too good a player not to. And, I mean, if you're flogging Aguero in every single game, he's going to pick up an injury. So that factor is quite important to me. And I think the one that will make the difference will be, I can't remember what game week it is. I think it's 15, where Man City, where the teams play midweek for the first time, Tuesday, Wednesday in the Premier League. Yeah. And I just really think that game is going to be Aguero benched. I mean, I don't know that for sure. Guessing Pep is a bad idea in general, but I think if any game is going to show that Aguero is going to be benched, it's going to be that one. And now Spurs are home to Southampton, and I strongly believe that Kane will start that one. So for me, the plan is to get Kane in for that game at the expense of Aguero. Now, I could be wrong there, but I think if that does happen, if Aguero is benched in that game and Kane starts, even if he doesn't necessarily perform that well, I think you'll start to see a big shift of people move towards him because they'll start to worry about Aguero. Again, you could argue that Aguero in limited minutes and less games will score equally well as Kane. And I can't dispute that because Man City can dispatch teams all over. So right now, I don't think we've quite got the information we need, but I'm happy to take the plunge and go for it because I think Kane's shown, I know his stats aren't great, but I think he's shown signs recently that he is getting there again. And the thing with Kane is missing those hauls is really painful, because if you get him after the hauls, he often then lets you down. So I like to have him in place most of the time. So that's my thoughts on him anyway.
You've got Sterling as well, haven't you, Luke?
You've got him.
I've got Sterling and Aguero, yeah. So
you've got a bit of coverage there, yeah.
Yeah, so it's less, but I mean, I think Sterling may be in line for a benching on that Tuesday as well. I think anyone I mean, that's the thing with Man City; they could replace their whole 11 and still win that game easily, because the people on the bench are just as good. So I would think there'd be mass rotation for City in that game. That's my personal thoughts. I don't want to scaremonger anyone, but yeah, I think for Spurs they haven't quite got that strength in depth. Although I do think Llorente's a decent player. I just want to put it out there. He's not in Kane's caliber though, obviously.
Bring him in a captain, yeah, just like Shaqiri.
Well, you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, you never know. What do you reckon, Joe? You're very quiet.
Yeah, no, well, Luke makes a really good point there about the fixtures. And I'm a bit like Luke, I'm a bit of a fixtures person as well. I know Luke looks at, especially because of playing the Sky game. And I think he's pinpointed something quite good there. That midweek game, game week 15, so they're away to Watford. And then immediately afterwards, game week 16, they away to Chelsea. You would imagine that Pep is going to be absolutely going for that Chelsea game. And I think he can afford to rest some players. And yes, it wouldn't surprise me to see some surprises with that team sheet there. Meanwhile, Tottenham is at home to Southampton. And then, unlike that Cardiff game where I got Kane in, that was kind of a 1 week punt really. Tottenham then have Leicester away, Burnley at home, Everton away and Bournemouth at home. I say home and away, but as has been pointed out, all their games are away really. It doesn't really matter whether it's home and away. And they're just a really good set of fixtures, and we know he's nailed on. Over that period though, at home, Man City have Everton and Crystal Palace at home. And they're also fixtures I want Aguero for as well. So it's going to be a tough choice. I haven't made that yet. It is at the back of my mind. One thing I kind of want to see more of though is better points from Kane. While you've been talking, the picture we got up in the screen shows the top scoring points scorers in FPL. Aguero's at the top with 80, Wilson with 72, Aubameyang with 67, and in fourth place is Kane with 61, just ahead of Lacazette and 60 points. So Kane is not performing as well as Aguero, but he's slowly but surely creeping up into those top tiers, and I think you're going to see that much more with Kane. I had a look at the last 4 game weeks, and specifically players that have actually started all 4 matches. And I was looking in terms of shots in the box rate, really, and there are 10 nailed on players that have a better shot in the box rate than Kane. Now, that's not what I want to be seeing for Kane, really. I don't want to be seeing Morata shooting in the box more often than Kane. I don't want to see Danny Ings shooting more often in the box than okay. I don't even want to see Deulofeu. All of these players have got a better shot in the box rate than Kane. In previous seasons, when Kane's completely on form, he's right at the top. Who's at the top at the moment? Aguero. You expect to see him there, and he's getting the points from that. So it shows that close range efforts for these top strikers, that's what you want to see lots of. And I'm not seeing that with Kane to that same degree. And of course, it comes down to value. Now, if Kane was 11 million, I'd probably just say I'm going to get him in. If he was, obviously 10 million. 11.5, I start to think about it. 12.4. I'm really struggling to fit that kind of price tag in. So in terms of value, if you go on the FPL site, there's a thing that says form, value form over the season. And there are 18 forwards who offer more points to the pound than Kane. So crucially, that list, obviously there's lots of cheap strikers in there you'd expect, but crucially that list also includes Aguero, the Arsenal strikers up top, and Arnautovic. So all of them are offering more for the money at the moment. But yeah, Luke makes a great point with the fixtures. I'm keeping a kind of a watching eye on this. I've got a couple of fixture or two to think about it. But at the moment, Kane's not. If he carries on with this sort of form, I'm not interested. It's just not worth the money. There's better options.
That's it.
Actually, one more thing on that. Arsenal's fixtures turn around about the same time. So game week 16, they've got Huddersfield, Southampton, Burnley. Now I'm guessing a lot of people will want one of Aubameyang or Lacazette as well, who don't come cheap. So you're going to have to make considerations for that as well.
But yeah, Lacazette 9.7. This is a great point as well. Lacazette. Now I'm thinking about him game week 16 or so. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, Salah is eating up so much of my budget that I can't even think. I mean, really, you're looking at Salah and Aguero when really Aguero, when Kane and Aubameyang might be better options. Because I mean, Salah's points just aren't that great. No bonus points. Liverpool are playing more kind of conservative, not free flowing. Something not quite right with their attacking options. You had Mane going off the field in tears in the international break. There's something not quite right with them up front. I'm looking at getting rid of Salah because I'm just not convinced by them. Luke hasn't got him. I think that's been really, you've done really well with that. And I think at the start of the season, people saying, "Oh, I'm going out at Salah," they were just kind of laughed at. But now I think you can make a really strong case for it. And when you dump Salah, suddenly you can do a hell of a lot of your team, especially with the fixtures changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is so Kane and Salah are about the same price, more or less. Aguero and Sterling are about the same price. So I think you might start seeing a divide. You'll see people, presumably like Luke, will have Kane and Sterling, and then you'll have people perhaps like me who've got Salah and Aguero in that combination. But I don't think it's possible to have the combination of Salah and Kane. I just think that extra 2 million that extra million or so in doing that is really vital. I mean, he's pushing it really anyway. But yeah, I think we're going to see a really divide. I mean, people talk about the template, but I think we'll see 2 templates emerge, and I think we'll see some with that Kane Sterling and some with Aguero Salah. And chances are, I reckon both pairings will probably match each other. But you never know. We'll be
that's boring.
Yeah, but we'll be thinking about it right up until then. So let's move on to the team that people have been talking about. The picture I've got up on the screen is a captain poll for this week. Early stages. Now this worries me. I don't own Richarlison. He's the top choice captain amongst the fantasy football scout community currently, above Salah, Aguero, Sterling, and Martial even. Yeah, so Neil, Everton we're talking about.
Yeah, Richarlison scored tonight as well, which will make you feel even better about that. So Everton last season, it was a bit of a must avoid. They were very lacklustre under Allardyce. They're offering some strong value in defence in midfield this season. So we've got a couple of questions here. Kloppers says Richarlison's a strong option. Is it worth a punt on any others? So Lucas Digne or Yerry Mina, strong options. And then Airbox says, would love Joe to discuss the Everton defence and how well they are performing statistically, especially after you give them a grilling last season.
This is true.
So Joe, might as well go straight to
bit.
Go straight to you on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, now I'd point out Kloppers and Airbox are both Everton fans, and so both of them, Airbox in particular, took note of my comments about Everton last season. But to be fair, Everton were absolutely hopeless last season and boring as well. This season, complete turnaround. They're exciting and they're doing well, and they've got options as well from fantasy managers, and so I like them again. Now before Mendy, we're going to come to Mendy a bit later, but before he was actually, we knew that he was having surgery, I was already thinking of swapping for an Everton defender, and it's Lucas Digne was my pick, and I just think he's a player I've had my eye on. He's absolutely my type of player. He's got really strong underlying stats. He looks on the cusp of some big hauls coming up, and he's not that well owned as well. So he's a really good differential. I think he's a template player waiting to happen possibly. So I think first of all though, an Everton defender looks a great option. So they've got 3 home fixtures over the next 4: Cardiff, Newcastle, and Watford. I'm thinking 2 clean sheets at the very least over that period. And an Everton defender can also be benched and rotated easily, I think, over the tougher games. Of course, they've got Liverpool coming up within the next 4. But then over that period as well, suddenly Crystal Palace's fixtures get better. So Wan-Bissaka's been rotting away on our benches. No one's getting rid of him because we all got him for 4 million, and 4 million playing defenders gold. Suddenly his fixtures are getting good, and he hasn't really dropped form at all. Palace are just pretty poor side. They've had poor fixtures. Now they're going to have better fixtures. Chances are we could get some returns from him. So an Everton defender's they can be cheap enough. So Michael Keane, now Keane does appeal to me, with 2 assists and a goal this season. I don't rule him out, but I am concerned that early goal threat has disappeared a little since he was injured and missed game weeks 4 and 5. So prior to that, I did something on the Fantasy Football Scout site answering some questions on this, and I did a bit of research, and basically prior to that injury he was averaging 2 shots a game, which for a centre back is pretty good, and with a 66.7% accuracy. That's really good, but after coming back from that threat has pretty much halved, and he's only mustered 1 on target attempt really, so that's not great. Midfield, obviously Richarlison. I look at that poll, he absolutely scares me. I should have put that picture I had before on the Breakfast Club of a giant sofa to hide behind. I'm actually tempted to at least get some kind of armchair to hide behind for Richarlison. It is worrying me because he's got such a huge ownership, especially in the top 10,000. And if a lot of them are going to be captaining him, and I don't own him, and say Aguero, who I'll captain maybe, has got, or Salah gets 2 points, and Richarlison gets 15 points, then, well, that's the end of my game week, basically. Sigurdsson obviously appeals as well. I could get him in possibly for a hit as well. So the last 4 games, he's had 11 shots. I mean, all in all, I think they're a great option, and I think they're benchable as well, particularly in defence. I'm less keen to bench Richarlison, I would imagine, but over the next set of fixtures, you've got Liverpool away, Man City away, and Tottenham at home, so they're not great. But Cardiff at home, Newcastle at home, Watford at home, great. And then Burnley away and Brighton away, also good fixtures. So, yeah, in a nutshell, very keen on Everton. Lots of nice options. Digne is my top 1. I want Richarlison as well. May not get him.
Yep, Luke, what do you think? Any interest in
Everton defenders or midfielders?
Yeah, definitely. I already own Richarlison, so I'm happy with that. But the fixtures are just so good. I mean, Digne in particular, we're all after value, right? I don't think you can really compare him to your Laporte. I mean, a lot of people are doing that because obviously the Mendy injury, they're in different brackets. But in terms of just straight value, his price is so good. The fixtures are so good. As long as your team allows you to maybe bench him in some of those tougher away games they've got in amongst those good home games, I think he's a good option and he's good value. For me, I probably won't be going there, just to try and be a little bit different, probably. But I don't know. I think he's got 1 assist this season, right? And his stats do look good offensively, but I'm not overly convinced he's got that much attacking threat. I still think Sigurdsson being there and on most set pieces, and Richarlison means that he's not anywhere near the top option in that team, and that sort of worries me a bit. But again, I come back to the value thing. He's still great value, and I certainly am considering him. I mean, there's even been talk, I don't know if it's true or not, of them moving to 3-5-2 potentially, because obviously Mina's coming in. And I honestly think, I don't want to tell Marcus Silva how to do his job because he's already proved me wrong with the Richarlison up front thing. But I honestly think when you look at their team, probably their weakest areas are the 2 side forwards. So you've got Bernard, who's not been great in terms of
he's awful.
Yeah, and Walcott's obviously not set the world alight. And I just think if you replace those 2 with Mina and Tosun, so you would think instinctively that's going to be less goal threat, right? But Mina's got I think it's 20 goals in 71 games. Now, this is in all competitions, okay? It's just 20 goals in his last 71 games. So that's a goal every 3.55 games, right? So he's already just had 1 game where he didn't score. So he's due to score in the next 2.5 games, basically, if he keeps up with his rate. So I'd argue he's got a bigger goal threat than Bernard or Walcott, potentially. And then if that was to push the wing-backs further up the pitch, which I think Coleman and Digne are almost ready-made for that role, and then you even get Tosun to potentially play alongside Richarlison and free him up a little bit, occupy the centre-backs, because obviously as a new centre-forward, so to speak, that's probably the hardest thing to do is have your back to goal, etc. So Tosun can fill that role. And if they were to move to that formation, I'd be really strongly interested. So there's a chance, because he's got a decision to make on Mina this weekend, and I'll be really interested in the team sheet to see whether Zuma, Keane, Mina, what the situation is there. And if he does go 3-5-2, I think people could have a real diamond on their hands, potentially in Digne. But still, Mina, for me, would be the one I'd want, because you're paying like an extra, is it 0.5, 0.6 or something? I can't remember.
4 years, yeah.
Right, over Digne. And then, obviously, a goal's worth double points to an assist for a defender. So with that kind of threat, I mean, Shane Long would kill for that kind of goal ratio. Do you know what I mean? So if Mida comes into the team, he trumps him for me, and I'd be looking at him. Because I don't know, and the game week's come a little bit earlier, I think it's just a risk too far, potentially. So yeah, in a nutshell, probably I've dragged on too long there. But Digne, I really like. He's really good value. But for me, I'm still looking at City defence and particular John Stones. But that's another conversation.
If they got Arnautovic, what the media rumours are saying, and they played 3-5-2 with him and Richarlison up front, that'd be an absolute fantasy godsend. That would. Mm. You'd struggle to just pick three from that. So yeah, Az, what do you think? Any interest in Everton backline or another midfielder?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got Richarlison, very happy. We're going about it more. The two defenders I'm looking at are Digne and Coleman. Coleman, you've got the nostalgia of I remember, the season a few years ago, and every week you were just getting points from him. It was great. And then he had a massive price hike and an injury, I think, and now he's back and playing again. I compared Digne and Coleman, and Digne just destroys him just across the board, like expected goals, expected assists. He's taking set plays, but better baseline bonus. The only thing that Coleman has got over him is he's had double the penalty area touches. So Coleman's goal threat is less, but he is still getting the ball in really dangerous places. He scored against Brighton as well. The good thing about Coleman, I mean, his only replacement is John Joe Kenny, who's he's not going to play, whereas Digne does have Baines. So I do wonder if Baines is going to play, a couple of games over Christmas, or is he just going to completely phase Baines out? I mean, Baines was starting the season. He was first choice left back, and then
I agree with you, Az. I think people who think Digne won't get rotated for one game over Christmas are having a laugh, really, because Baines is still, he may be getting on, but he's going to come in for one. He's still an adequate player, surely. He'll come in for one, but I don't see that as any different to virtually any other player, though. So it's almost
no. I mean, I think they can't really. They've got no one who can do what Coleman does, I don't think, on the right. They need him because Walcott, as you say, I think they're really dependent on these two fullbacks to really get forward and create chances. And I think those two positions, particularly for them, are crucial. So I kind of want to go for Coleman because everyone's going for Digne. But looking at the stats, and the fact Digne is cheaper, it is tough. Coleman's 5.2. But yeah, I think if you're looking for someone a bit different, then Coleman's a really good player to go for. And he's done it before. There's no reason why he can't do as well as he has done in previous seasons in a better Everton team there has been for quite a few years.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered from an offensive point of view, but I did look at Everton's defensive statistics over the last 6 weeks, because clean sheets are your bread and butter. If you're not getting an attack in return, then you want the fallback of a clean sheet. In the last half a dozen game weeks, they're the joint lowest with Manchester City for shots in the box conceded, the joint third lowest for overall attempts, and they are the only club not to have made a defensive error in the last 6 game weeks. So they're showing sign of improvements from a defensive perspective as well. We've got Andre Gomez now in front of the back four with Idrissa Gueye. I think it makes him play better. I think Gueye was struggling earlier in the season. They had Tom Davies and Morgan Schneiderlin, who I think they were affecting his game. And I think with Gomez in there now, it makes him a much better central midfield partnership. I think it helps at both ends of the pitch. So yeah, it looks pretty good from an attacking and defensive perspective if you're looking at a Everton defender this week. And I think over to Luke now for the next talking point.
Yeah, so Luke, now our talking point, we've already mentioned the player briefly that we mentioned, but the news this week that Benjamin Mendy had undergone surgery, faces a spell on the sidelines, really. So we've got a few questions about that, and it also brings in some other topics as well about where to allocate money and things like that. So yeah, Luke, fire away. Fire away on that talking point then.
Yeah, so obviously Mendy getting injury was probably the only injury so far that's pretty much been confirmed. The rest of them we're sort of still waiting for. So he's obviously very popular amongst fantasy football scout managers and Twitter managers, part of the famous arm defence with Robertson as well and Alonso. So
I thought it was Ram.
Oh, sorry, I've seen arm, I've seen Ram.
Could be Mr. A.
Ra.
Yeah, could be anything. But it seems to be Mendy's made it, so we've got to kind of dissolve that now. So there's already seen 170,000 people transfer him out. He's currently got 16% ownership, so you'd expect even more to ship him out. Price drops will probably be incoming soon, I think, as well. So lots of questions about him, obviously, as to and who we could actually bring in to replace him. And as Joe touched on there, where do we go? Do we go dirt cheap? Do we go same price? Or who are we looking at? We've already mentioned one possible one in Digne, but I'm going to read a few questions here from the community, so their thoughts on this. So, got a question from Ben Moomin, who says, "Who are the best Mendy replacements? Should managers consider a cheaper alternative and spread those funds, preparing for rotation, so onto the bench, etc." FPL Brent says, "Is Man City defensive coverage essential, and if so, which one?" So obviously, if we're losing Mendy, are we looking at another Man City player to take his place? And who should that be? We've got Gia Yu, who says, "Should we be looking to rotate a third defender alongside perhaps Alonso and Robertson, or is that asking for trouble?" So he's talking about taking money out of it and probably looking at someone like Doherty, Wan-Bissaka, and a third potentially rotation partnership there to fill that last spot. He's also asking who's going to benefit from Mendy being out. So who's going to come in? The likes of Delph. Does that mean more game time for Sané, which is what Daryl B says? Will this see Sané feature more, as Pep has often looked to one or the other, although maybe not in recent times. So yeah, lots of points there really on Mendy and City in general. So Neil, if I come to you first, what's your thoughts on those? Who are you? I mean, do you have Mendy first of all, and who are you looking at?
I don't actually. I had him before his first injury, and I sort of dodged getting him back in after that.
Done well.
It's been a sort of a butt clenching few weeks watching Man City games because luckily he just hasn't looked as threatening going forward, and that's just persuaded me that I didn't want him even before the injury. So yeah. Man City defence, you can easily overlook because they've conceded in the last two games, but statistically, they're still the best in the league in terms of underlying stats. Laporte, he's up to 6 million now, but he's assumed the sort of Otamendi role. Everyone else rotates around him. He doesn't offer much else. He's not really getting bonus. He scored against, was it Wolves earlier this season, but he hasn't done much since then. So if you're looking for a City defender, then he's stating the obvious. He's the safe bet. I've got an article coming out tomorrow morning actually on Scout about Christmas schedule last year, who played over the festive break, sort of the 4 games from Gameweek 19 to 22. And Otamendi played all 4 every minute. Now, Laporte's got his role this season, really. So you'd expect him to sort of play that, and then Company Stones rotate around him perhaps. If you're looking elsewhere, I'm looking at Trippier for game week 15. We're talking about the fixture swing for Spurs. I haven't got Trippier at the moment, but he's probably the only Spurs player I'm set on getting for that fixture swing at the moment. Yes, he'll get rotated over Christmas. There's no doubt about that. He's had a great run of it up to now, but I'm willing to sacrifice the odd benching, maybe in sort of 2 of the next 12. As long as he delivers in the other fixtures. I think Tottenham's got like 8 games at home in the next 12 game weeks. From game week 15 onwards. As for whether it'll affect other players, Sane sort of started off last season the same as he did this season, so he was a bit part player, and then Mendy got injured in game week 16 of last season. Sane then went on to start 25 of the 28 games in which he was fit. He missed a couple of games through injury. And the 3 games that Mendy's missed already this season, Sane started all of them. So the stats would suggest that he's going to get more starts. I don't think it'll quite be as reliable as last season because they didn't really have another alternative on the wing. Bernardo Silva was playing out there on occasion, but he's not a wide player. As he's proved this season, he's better in the centre of the park. So Mahrez will eat into that game time, but I definitely think he's going to feature more prominently, if not every week, which will impact perhaps on Sterling and Mahrez. Probably more Mahrez. Sterling was he's sort of Pep's boy, and he barely dropped him at all last season. But I think Sane, which we'll discuss later on when we come to differentials, he's a prospect for however long Mendy's out for. I'm not going to get him in myself, but he's definitely someone who could benefit from Mendy's absence anyway.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the Sané thing, because like you say, it's generally been one or the other, but in recent times we've seen them both line up together.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that previous talk was more had fixture changes involved in it with 3-5-2. Now, obviously I don't want to second guess Pep here, but it doesn't look like to me he's going to that formation anytime soon, just because they've been doing so well. So I basically put it down to there's the two wide positions, which Mahrez, Sterling, and Sané have been filling, and I don't think that will necessarily change. It's just whether Pep wants a true left footer out there on that left wing. Sterling's played the left wing role multiple times, but obviously he's had Mendy generally behind him. So Delph's left footed as well. He's just not very. Not very offensive down that side. So it would be interesting. I think anyone who can say for sure anyway is probably not the only person is going to be Pep who can say that. Basically, put it that way, in my opinion. Az, I'll come to you. Obviously, I'm assuming you've got Mendy, and who are you looking at?
Oh yes, brought him in for his blanks after the fear got to me. Another player that I brought in at the wrong time this season. So I think most people that I'm seeing on Twitter and on the site are going for either Laporte or Digne, either to save money and go for the cheaper option in Digne, or for the straight swap to kind of get in the fixtures with Laporte. For me, when you've got three premium defenders, I want them all to be ridiculously attacking, and we had that with Alonso, Robertson, and Mendy. They were pretty much the three most attacking players in the league. I think Trippier also kind of falls into that bracket as well, and the fact he's got the set pieces and things. With Laporte, I just don't see it. It's just not. It's the point that I've seen Joe making as well. He's got this kind of got a ceiling of about 8, and that's it. Whereas Mendy, you wouldn't be surprised to see him get a 15-pointer, and he did early in the season. So I'm not looking at going for Laporte. There's no other 6 million plus defenders I want, so I'm looking to save some money. And I just think you've got so many options. There's so many options around the 5 million mark this season. You've got like Chilwell playing really well, really good fixtures for Leicester. You've got the Liverpool, the two 5 million defenders there in Alexander-Arnold and Gomez. Okay, there's probably going to be a bit of rotation around. They're not really sure who's going to play, but Liverpool are looking really tight, and for a double up with Robertson, there could be some really good points there. Then you've got Digne, Coleman as well. So I'm looking at one of these players. And then the other good thing is you've got Wan-Bissaka, who we've mentioned before, who's then coming in with some really good games. So even if you bring in someone like Digne, he's got Cardiff at home this week, and then next week he's got a pretty rubbish fixture. But then Wan-Bissaka's there to fill in the gap. I don't think you really need to spend loads of money in defence to kind of get the same reward, because I think Mendy, Alonso and Robertson they were just so far above all the other options. When you take those three out, suddenly you've got a lot more to play with. I'm looking at going quite a bit cheaper and investing a bit more money and keeping some Kane money aside. That's my plan.
Yeah, and like you say, Digne plays away to Liverpool the game week after, but in that same week, Wolves are away to Cardiff, so Doherty's looking good there, which a lot of people have got, and then you got Palace at home to Burnley. So if Wan-Bissaka's ever going to pick up a 9-pointer,
more than happy to play in that game.
So, Joe, if I go to you before I round up with my final thoughts on it, I guess, what do you think about it?
I can't argue against having a Man City defender. So a lot of people are making the obvious switch, and sometimes the obvious is because it's a good switch from Mendy, Laporte. That's not for me, though. There's lots of reasons. One is that he's not actually as nailed as people will think. He's going to miss a game, I think, over the Christmas period. So this is what the Manchester Evening News were reporting just a couple of weeks back, the end of October. They say the fact that Laporte had a full pre-season, has been getting rest during international breaks, have ensured that he stayed fresh. But Guardiola said that will change, especially after next month, which is this month now, when the last international break gets played. Of course, we have other alternatives, play Vincent or Nico. He is not going to play all the season, all the minutes, but at the moment he doesn't go to the national team. He has a break during 2 weeks. In this period, he's fitter and can play regularly. So when the international breaks finish, come December, January, February, everyone is going to play. So Laporte is not as nailed on as everyone thinks he is. Yes, he's going to play the majority of games. All of that means he's probably just going to miss one game in 3 months. But nevertheless, that is there. And so that spectre of rotation, probably in a very easy game, is there with him. So let's not kid ourselves that Laporte is completely 100% nailed on. So as well as that, for me personally, I see an opportunity to free up about 1.5 million by getting Digne in. And I can use that money. I'm not sure where yet, but I can use it somewhere, and I'm going to be probably using that to bolster my midfield or attack even. So, for example, that could mean getting Richarlison in. It could mean getting Sigurdsson in. It could mean upgrading Danny Ings possibly. There's all sorts of options. I could go 5 in the midfield. Gives me that flexibility every game week. So that would give me Robertson, Alonso. So this is my kind of strategy of it. Robertson, Alonso, and rotating 3 defenders around that. So some weeks 2 could play, some weeks 1 can play as well. So I mean, I've got a midfield. I've got Højbjerg. I either want him benched permanently or upgraded as well. So once again, there's a bit of rotation there. And we've mentioned it before, it's all about ceilings and floors. Laporte, he basically offers you 6 points really. So over the last 4 game weeks, he's created no chances and had 1 shot. Doherty, just as a comparison here, here's some other names. Doherty created 8 and had 8 chances, 7 shots. Alexander-Arnold, 5 chances, 7 goal attempts. Both are considerably cheaper than Laporte. Digne, 11 chances and 4 shots. And the list goes on. Seamus Coleman, here's another one. 4 chances, 3 shots. Even Johnny Evans is posting better attacking stats than Laporte. So, these guys here that I've mentioned here, these are blooming. These are dancing on. These are Lionel Richie. They're dancing on the ceiling, right up there. They're hopscotching onto the roof. Laporte is on the dance floor, rooted to that floor there. So for me, I'm going to take a punt on Everton, and they're Lionel Richie, Digne, and free up some money. Laporte's not for me.
Okay, I'm going to come out as an alternative view on that one, Joe. Just to rile it up a bit. I'm a big fan of Laporte. I think he's great. Those stats basically tell the past to me. They don't necessarily tell the future. The guy's already scored this season, and I think he scored in the Champions League as well. Could be wrong there, but I think he's got 2 goals. I just think the sheer weight of corners, free kicks that Man City get, he's in and around there. And I don't really necessarily think stats show that attacking threat that well, because Laporte may not be as good as those guys in the box, but he's probably going to get at least 7, 8, 9 attempts, or at least be in the box with a shout of potentially getting on the end of it. Whereas some teams don't get anywhere near that amount of corners. I do think he is a threat, although he potentially hasn't shown that. But more than that, I mean, we've always said the bread and butter of teams is clean sheets. And Man City, I mean, they've conceded 1 goal from open play all season. Now, I know it doesn't matter how the goals go in, because at the end of the day, we're just about the points, right? But to concede 1 goal from open play, that should show you, I think, that aside from a jammy set piece or a penalty where Ederson gets so bored he decides to take someone out for a laugh, they're fairly impenetrable. The 1 goal they conceded was to Yedlin, where the guy's probably the quickest guy in the Premier League. You're not really going to be looking at marking him, and he's run the whole length of the pitch to tap in from Rondon. I mean, who'd expect that Rondon would get a pass in for a start? But obviously he's turned up this week, but it's just, to me, the defence is something else. And I just think, yeah, ceilings and floors, I can see where you're coming from. But, I mean, what does it matter if he gets 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and another guy gets 2, 2, 10, 2, 10? To me, it doesn't really matter. So I still think Laporte is a great option. Me, just to be different, I'm looking at Stones.
Yeah, I was going to say, why not get Stones?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think, I mean, even over the last 4 weeks, his baseline bonus is slightly better than Laporte. Not that I expect any of them to get bonus, because City scored too many goals for their defenders to get bonus. But it is slightly better. His goal threat is also slightly better, but their goal threat's supposed to be quite minimal.
Yeah.
But Stones,
I can buy into Stones definitely, because it's not only all about the ceilings and floors. It's about freeing up the money, and that's the crucial thing. That and
I can see that.
So, for example, if someone hasn't got Doherty, he would be my top choice Mendy replacement. If they don't own Doherty, get him in. You're not going to get that
for
value.
sure. I think Doherty's a special.
But yeah, it would be easy if I loved my midfield and attack, I would just get Laporte in, because it's not just that it's easy and boring. It just makes sense. It is a great defence. He's going to miss a game. And that's it. But he's going to play the vast majority of them.
And I think a lot of people are overlooking Stones as a result of that. I mean, yeah, he may miss an extra game than Laporte, but I just think that as long as you've got that good bench, which I think Wan-Bissaka offers that option and Doherty offers that option, as long as you've got 3 playing members, I'll take that on the chin. and for 5.3 million, I'm not overly concerned. So for me, I'm weighing up Digne or him. And just briefly on the Sané thing, I think I've already touched on it really. I don't know whether he'll get extra minutes, but I guess we can only expect that he probably will. And as a result, that may see more rotation for Sterling. But I don't know. I just feel like Sterling's so good at the moment and they've played so much that he'll continue to feature. I guess the 3-5-2 thing could be rolled out, but again, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But we're all trying to predict Pep here. It's not a good idea, I don't think, overall.
Okay, well, let's move on. Let's move on to game week 13 in a bit more detail, and try and predict Pep, but also try and predict all the other clean sheets, and especially differentials and clean sheets there. So, Az, do you want to start us off on tracking our differentials and etc.?
Yep, so only one of us actually was successful last time out, and that was Luke with his captain Shaqiri coming in. David went for Morata, didn't score. You went for Ericsson, Joe, didn't score. I went for Brooks, didn't score. And Neil, I think this is going to be your first one, so it'd be interesting to know. I mean, you can't be doing much worse than us. We've all got a 25% success rate. So, if you get one right, then you're going to absolutely smash us. So then just don't come on again, and then you're fine.
Yeah, do my scores contribute to David's score? Because in that case, I'll just pick someone absolutely ridiculous.
No. This is yours. So yeah, it's all going to be added up all the times you appear over the season. So you better be good.
I was about to say David's aren't that ridiculous, and then I saw he picked Morata and Vestergaard as two of his picks. So yeah, maybe not too great. So I'd first pick this week. I have gone for Digne because of all the reasons we've discussed earlier. I think home to Cardiff, really good chance for a clean sheet, very attacking. He'll play. I think it's not time for Baines yet, and I've definitely nabbed him from you, didn't I, Joe? I know you would have gone for him. So yeah, Digne is my pick. Luke, you're next.
I've gone Cavallero. Is that how you say his name? I'm not very good at pronunciations.
Sounds good.
The Wolves guy. I just think that I know Wolves' team has pretty much been the same 11 like most of the games. Obviously, that's now going to change with the injury to Otto. But the one position they've probably struggled with has been the Diego Jota position. And he just seems to offer a little bit of a goal threat more than him at the moment. I think he's in line for a start. At the end of the day, they're at home. They're against Huddersfield. He scored last week. He's owned by 0.1%, I think it is. So the very definition of a differential. Certainly wouldn't be looking to bring him in long term. But yeah, as a one-off game, I fancy him for this one.
Nice. Joe?
Okay. Next. Yeah, well, you stole Digne. Literally just stole him from me. So I rather uncreatively stuck with the Everton defence. So I've gone for currently I think the second best option, Michael Keane. So he's had 2 chances, 4 shots, last 4. So it could be attacking returns. Plus his baseline bonus is 1 every 6 minutes. The baseline bonus, for those that don't know, is the bonus points that go towards the bonus point system that go towards the eventual bonus point tally, and it strips out things like clean sheets, goals and assists. So it's all the other stuff that they do. So it indicates if they get a clean sheet, he could be on for bonus. And I think they're going to keep Cardiff at bay, which I shall come to shortly.
Your third centre-back differential pick this season. Getting a bit old now, Joe.
Yeah, I love it. Points at both ends of the pitch. One day I'll get it.
Clean sheets next. So.
Oh no, we got Neil's.
Oh, sorry, Neil.
Right.
Just so forgettable. Sorry, man. who have you gone for?
Here's a name we haven't mentioned in about a minute. Leroy Sané. I know I picked this before we even discussed Man City options. Pretty much outlined the reasons why already. Every match in which he started this season, he's returned. So 5 starts, really? 3 goals, 4 assists. Guardiola hasn't really fancied him away from home. I think the only game he started was Cardiff. But he's coming off the back of 2 goals in the national break. Scored in 2 games over the weekend for Germany. And I think he'll get a start this weekend. And I think West Ham's full-backs are probably the more susceptible. Then they've got quite a good centre-half pairing, Balbuena and Diop. I think that he can get it, Zabaleta. So yeah, I'm going to go with Sané, I think.
Yeah, it's always good to have a Man City as a differential. Just if he starts.
Yeah, he just qualifies. I think he's 4.5%.
Nice. Now it's clean sheets. Not missing. David's not hiding around, is he, somewhere? Just that. So clean sheets. We've got a bit of a mixed record at these actually. Luke's doing the worst with 33%. Nice.
I'll tell you why that is, because I pick Man City every week, and the last 2 weeks Edison's decided to.
Oh yeah, you have picked Man City every week. Joe and David have then got 63%, 5 right, 3 wrong, and then I'm top of the pile with 75% right, which is nice. But I've got bottom pick this week. So first pick, I believe, is Joe.
Well, I'm going for Everton, so it's a double up for me. So a lot riding on this. They come up against Cardiff at home, and away from home, Cardiff have scored a record low 2 goals and have the joint lowest number of shots, along with Newcastle. So just 40 goal attempts on their travels. So meanwhile, and this is something that Neale picked up on earlier, Everton have actually become pretty good defensively, and over their last 4 home matches they've only conceded 17 shots in the box at close range efforts there, and only Liverpool can boast a better home record than that. So yeah, for me, Everton, I think it's going to be a clean sheet there.
Nice. And Neil, you're next.
Yeah, I took the obvious one. It's the meeting of one of the better defences in the league against the worst attack. So it's Wolves. Huddersfield's, they got the lowest goal scoring rate in the league. I think 6 goals in 12 games. 9 big chances all season. That's the lowest in the league as well. 4th worst for shots in the box and on target. Wolves themselves, I think the 3rd lowest for big chances conceded. 4th lowest for shots in the box. Huddersfield's missing Chris Slaver as well, who's one of their pretty only creative outlets. He's the wing back who has fired in a lot of crosses this season. I think he's 4th in the list of defenders in terms of firing in crosses. So it's all set up for a Huddersfield 1-0 win, I think, now that I've said that.
Yeah, it's always the way.
Yeah.
Luke, Man City again, yeah? Done?
To be honest, I was extremely close, but I thought I've got to mix it up. And I really want an Altovich to score, so I didn't want to have to cheer that on. I'm going for Brighton. Pretty boring pick, but sorry guys, I know you're Brighton fans. They've got clean sheets in they've got clean sheets in their last 2 home games, and Leicester, as Mr. All Brighton from Neale can testify to, have struggled to score of late. I think they've only scored 4 goals in their last 5 games, which isn't great. I mean, before that, I think they pretty much scored against everyone, and then they just kind of dried up. Now, especially if Maddison's out, which we don't know about, I think they're going to struggle to score against Brighton. Goals are hard to come by. Vardy's not been in the best form, and Brighton are just a different beast at home. So yeah, there we go.
Nice. I mean, it's a good pick. I mean, it says a lot when my pick, United, are I'm bottom pick and I'm picking United at home to Palace because he hasn't gone. I think that just shows how far they've fallen this season. But I do think there's a decent chance of a clean sheet in that game. I'm not going to bash United any more than normal, but they haven't been great this season. They've got to turn it around at some point. Palace have actually scored. They scored against Arsenal and Chelsea, so they are getting goals against some of the top teams, but luckily they're not playing a top team, so I think they're going to be all right. Sorry, Luke. Yeah, I think United to win that one 1-0, 2-0. Looks pretty comfortable, so that's my pick.
Okay, well let's move on to our transfer plans and captaincy. I'll go with Neale first. Who are you planning to ditch, bring in, and captain?
Yeah, captaincy still up in the air. I've got it on Richarlison at the moment. That was something I just did when the Gameweek 12 deadline passed.
Your bus team, that is, as the always cheating people.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think we discussed this in our captaincy video, that if this might be the week to just take a little bit of a punt. There isn't a glaringly obvious premium captaincy candidate, so I might stick with Richarlison. Transfer, I've got 2. I think I'll just use 1, and I'm going to bring in, I mentioned this earlier, Jimenez for Queen. I've got 1.5. I can do that exactly. I'll probably do that tonight. So yeah, I'll be setting up 3-4-3, dropping Albrighton to the bench, and probably just saving another transfer.
And sorry, just who's your captaincy on? Richarlison, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing if I can persuade you against that, but no, damn. Okay, Luke. What are your plans and captaincy?
Okay, so I had Shaqiri for a 1-game punt. And stupidly, I transferred him out almost straight after that game for Martial, because Martial was going up in price, and I wanted to get him before his, I thought was going to be a 0.2, 0.3 rise. So that's since been, I've really regretted that since, because obviously my team's been littered with flags and injuries all over the place. Martial himself, and Shaqiri just looks like he's in a, the stars are aligning for him. I did a piece, a little comment on one of Neil's articles this morning about it, and he obviously played really well in the international game against Belgium as well in an advanced role. So if I could go back, I'd probably keep Shaqiri and look for another way to get Martial, but it's done now. So that's one move that's already happened. Martial's come in for Shaqiri. And now I've got the Mendy injury. So for me, I've already said I'm looking at Digne or Stones. It's almost certainly going to be Stones, but Digne's rotation is nice for the rest of my team. So I'll consider that. In terms of captain, it's been on Richarlison ever since. And now more and more people are looking towards it. It seems it's becoming more popular. It's starting to sway me away from it.
That's the spirit. Move away. You don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, I went for Arnautovic, then Shaqiri. If I go Richarlison, I've got to get one wrong eventually, right, of these random picks. So it's going to be Sterling or Richarlison. I was hesitant on Sterling because of the England games, but he only played one of them, so I think he may still feature.
If I were
especially
you,
as Mahrez played for Algeria.
If I were you, even without my outrageous bias, I would definitely captain Sterling there. I genuinely think he's a better option if he's gonna. Yeah, if you think he's gonna start.
Well, if he plays, I think he is a better option, and I'm pretty sure he will. So yeah, it may go towards Sterling.
Okay, Az, what are you doing, and who are you captaining?
So I've got 3 potential things that I'm going to wait until the press conferences come out to know what I'm doing. I've got a -4, which would be Digne and Martial in for Mendy and Obiang, which just seems a nice, sensible move. I've got a slightly more exciting -8, which would be a Bennett or someone, or just a non-playing 4 million defender coming in with Martial and Jimenez. So I'd change up my formation a bit. Or I've got a very exciting -12 planned, which would involve taking out Salah for Sterling, bringing in Jimenez, bringing in Obiang, and it literally would just clear out it would clear out Success, it would clear out Obiang, it would clear out Mendy, all in one fell swoop. And actually what I'm waiting on is the news of Doherty, because if Doherty is confirmed out of this game, my team is in quite bad shape with Wan-Bissaka and Doherty and Mendy and Success. So if Doherty's out, it's definitely going to be a -8 or a -12.
Wow.
Depends how drunk I get on Friday, I think.
Okay.
Which will break it up. But it's going to be, whatever happens, it's going to be quite exciting.
Yeah.
So.
Mum again, captain is?
Well, captaincy, I've had it on Richarlison all week, and I genuinely thought he was a differential. I thought I was going against the grain, going against Aguero, going against
for God's
Salah.
sake, man. Don't go for Richarlison.
And everyone's going Richarlison, so yeah, I'm going Richarlison. I mean, it's home to Cardiff. He's playing up front.
Oh, this is a nightmare. I'm going to have one of those game weeks, definitely. So, okay, with me, for me, the captaincy is between Aguero and Salah. These are the real men of the armband. And it's a tough one, really. I'm just moving between them constantly. I know Neil, we spoke about this at length on the captain video earlier this week. Do urge people to have a look at that as well. And didn't really come to a conclusion. I mean, they're both good options, but there's a thing about Aguero's away form, and there's a divided opinion about it, and indeed there is a very small sample to go with this season in terms of away matches against easy sides. It's basically kind of Cardiff and Wolves if you're a bit pessimistic about Wolves. And to be honest, he was pretty unlucky not to score much more than his goal against Cardiff. Salah could do damage against Watford. I don't know. It's going to be one of those two, really. But if I've got more yellow flags, then say Goodmanson, for example, if he's fit, ready to play, I'm going to play him at home to Newcastle. That just makes sense. Doesn't make sense to take him out for a hit for that. But if he's out and I'm struggling to get a good 11 together, then I may take a hit to get Richarlison in. That would be a very sad kind of playing the game move. I don't want to get Richarlison in, but if loads of people that I'm trying to catch up are captaining him, then it just covers that up. I don't want to do it though. So the transfer really is going to be Mendy to Digne, and as I said, waiting on news for the others. May consider that hit as well. Sigurdsson maybe as well, but yeah, you Richarlison lot really.
What about the armband on Digne? Clean sheet,
Oh, hang
assist,
on. Whoa,
maximum
whoa.
bonus.
This is Joe you're talking to.
You are
Luke.
talking to the wrong man. It is going to be on Aguero or Salah. Digne, getting Digne in, I'd be very happy for points at both ends of the pitch there. But I'm not going to. I'm not. The old adage was Leighton Baines: never bench, never captain. And who's filled as well? Digne. I think he's passed that on to him. Although I am going to bench him as well, so so maybe it hasn't been passed on to him at all. But yeah, you lot have worried me as well. But for now, I mean it's been a pretty lengthy Scoutcast. But then again, we have had a lot to talk about. We have had this very long international break. Thank God, no more. We've got absolutely tons of fixtures coming up, so we'll try and get as many Scoutcasts as we can humanly manage and videos out over the festive period. In between our mince pies and the such like. But for now, it's a goodbye from me.
Good night for me.
A good night.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.